Since the start of this decade, we have seen Sucker Punch Productions release two unbelievable titles, being Ghost of Tsushima and Ghost of Yotei. People hail these as some of the best games of the decade thus far. And in that same time, we have seen Ubisoft release three titles and all being very underwhelming in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Mirage, and most recently, Shadows. Funnily enough, both Valhalla and Shadows were released in the same years as Tsushima and Yotei, and were both completely overshadowed. Sucker Punch Productions have simply beat Ubisoft at their own game. But how? Ubisoft used to be a hailed name in the gaming industry. The Assassin's Creed franchise used to be one of the biggest things out there. Each game was immensely anticipated. But nowadays, we see another company simply making a better version of whatever Ubisoft is trying to do now. You look at Tsushima and Yotei and think this is what the open world modern Assassin's Creed games should have been. But instead, they have been ran off the court in terms of quality and sheer enjoyment. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing a few key points in how I think Sucker Punch produces games in the exact way that I think Ubisoft should have done. But before we get into things, if you guys do enjoy this video, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe as we are trying to reach 5,000 subscribers. With that being said, let's jump right into it. Now, the first point that I really want to focus on is the setting / exploration. But the exploration is what I want to focus on more, as it is such a key mechanic in both of these games, as they are both open worlds, and go about their exploration in a very similar manner. But Sucker Punch just does it immensely better. Starting off with the traversal is a lot more enjoyable in Ghost of Tsushima and Yotei. Firstly, the sheer scale of the map with Valhalla and Shadows is just way too big, and you get bored after a while just riding your horse around, and it's just not engaging in the slightest. You never get distracted by your surroundings. You set a map marker and just go. I simply never had a good time going to objectives in Assassin's Creed games. But some of the most fun I have in Tsushima, and especially Yotei, is simply riding my horse and exploring. There really isn't an essence of exploring in Assassin's Creed anymore. The world is simply there for you to go to each objective and mission. When Tsushima and Yotei actually feel like a living world and the people are being affected by the narrative at hand. The side content caters to it in some ways. Different parts of the map have different vibes based on the political climate and situation that they are in. Assassin's Creed needs their worlds to have more life and to be fun to traverse through. It is lacking in that, as each setting, disregarding the prettiness of it, feels dead at all times. Now, the next point I want to bring up in terms of the exploration, which I think is the most important part, is the side content within it. There's no point to explore if there's not a worthwhile amount of things to do. And Assassin's Creed genuinely sucks at this. Valhalla and Shadows, the content is just horrendous. It's cookie cutter, rinse and repeat dungeons, camps, collectibles, quests. That's all it is. There is no actual reason for the content to be there besides for it to add time to the game. I feel like sometimes Tsushima kinda falls into that slightly, but not close to Assassin's Creed scale, and then Yotei is just the perfect balance of it. It never actually feels like a chore in that game. I'm doing everything in that open world, which is surprising to me, because I didn't in Tsushima, because I eventually got tired of all the side content and slight repetitiveness of it. But Yotei, all the side content is so enjoyable. It feels unique, everything has a spin on it, it's immensely fun, and there's just no bloat whatsoever. One of the most important things also within side content is not just that the side content is enjoyable, but the rewards that you get from it are worthwhile. Especially since the loot pool is so much smaller within the Ghost games compared to Assassin's Creed, but the loot is just worthwhile to get, and along with the side content simply being fun, it is a great combination, and it is worth doing. I also think what really works well in Tsushima and Yotei is the limited HUD. There basically isn't one. It's just the gameplay. There's no map markers, there's no health bar constantly on screen, there's no objective in big letters, there's no damage appearing over the enemy's head. There's none of that, and it's perfect. And they replace it with seamless aspects of the world, with how the wind leads you to your objective, and it feels so natural to the world. I saw this video and I'll make sure to put it on the screen, but someone played the Assassin's Creed games, the more recent ones, without the HUD. It's just like an immensely better experience. Especially since Assassin's Creed games take place in these historical settings, and they do a great job of recreating them. But to have all these objective menus on your screen all at once, is a lot to look at. Just looking at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you have the compass at the top, you have the objective on the left hand side, your health at the bottom, you have different skills in the bottom right. There's just so much going on at your screen at all times. It's overstimulating. But Tsushima and Yote, it's just you, the environment, your horse, the music. There's nothing else, and I think it's perfectly done. It makes the experience so much more immersive. Overall, the exploration in the Ghost games feels so much more seamless compared to Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed always feels like a chore, and I'm checking things off the list. Yote and Tsushima, it really feels like I'm just exploring the world and I'm coming across these different objectives just to do along the way. It never feels like I'm just going around checking things off a list, doing them because I have to. I'm just simply engaging with the world and doing stuff within it. They handle it brilliantly. Now, the second topic I want to discuss in this video, which I think could arguably be the most important part about this comparison, is the gameplay. I think gameplay is a very important part in both of these games, and Sucker Punch just does a substantially better job at making the combat and gameplay an engaging experience. Like, to be completely honest, Ghost of Tsushima and Yote are two of my favorite combat systems ever. They are so well done. But before we get into the more nitpicky parts about the combat itself, I want to first touch on the gear, because I feel like that is a very important part of the combat and gameplay experience. The way that Ubisoft and Sucker Punch both handle their gear systems are vastly different. They are two completely different genres. Assassin's Creed, they lean more into the RPG side of things with a heavy amount of gear and weapons of different kinds. Tsushima has one main weapon in the katana, and Yote only has like 5 kinds of weapons and there's only one of each kind. I'm not saying that I hate the RPG style of gear and how that mechanic works, but I don't think Assassin's Creed does it well whatsoever, because I have never once been excited to get a piece of gear or a new weapon or anything in these more recent Assassin's Creed games. But with Sucker Punch, it's awesome to unlock a new stance or a weapon, or to get a new set of gear and upgrade it. You don't get that feeling out of Assassin's Creed games. But enough about the gear, let's get into the actual combat itself, and it's really not a competition whatsoever. Sucker Punch blows Ubisoft out of the water. Ever since the Assassin's Creed franchise moved into the more RPG side of things, the combat has been terrible, like genuinely it has been bad. And I adored the older Assassin's Creed games in the way they handled their combat. Funnily enough, Ghost of Tsushima and Yote lean into that style, more focused on the parries and countering. It feels like a modern interpretation of the older Assassin's Creed combat. But nowadays, with Assassin's Creed being RPGs, its hitbox system is one that is not enjoyable to me. The enemies end up being way too damage spongy. That's not the case with Tsushima or Yote. For the most part, no matter how strong the enemy is, unless you're fighting some boss, it takes like maybe 5 hits to take them out. You are equally as vulnerable as one another, and I like that a lot more. It's annoying when I'm fighting some generic enemy in an Assassin's Creed game, and they're taking like 15 to 20 hits. It's absurd and it's really frustrating. I don't enjoy the direction of the combat that they went with in the RPGs. But it's not just the style of the combat. I think Sucker Punch and the Ghost games lean a lot more into having more variety within the combat as well. Ghost of Tsushima has different stances, and Yote has different weapons. And in both of these games, you have different types of enemies that are weak to different stances or weapons, so genuinely, every single combat encounter you have, you're almost using every single weapon or stance that you have to take out the enemies in the most efficient manner. And along with that, you have different gear like the kunai, bombs, darts, a bow and arrow, a rifle and pistol. There are such layers to the combat, and once you really get good with it, it all flows together seamlessly. And they also keep the special abilities to a minimum, which I enjoy. Assassin's Creed has way too many of them, and they take away from the actual combat itself, when you just have to press a button to activate all these different abilities. And the last point on the combat is that the Ghost games have so much more weight behind their attacks. Each swing, dodge, and parry has a purpose. In Assassin's Creed, I'm just button mashing, hoping for the best from the fight, and each attack feels so weightless in comparison. Every movement has a purpose in Tsushima and Yote. That is just not the case in Assassin's Creed. The last part of the gameplay I want to touch on is the stealth. Again, the stealth is a major component in both these franchises. Maybe not as much Assassin's Creed now as prior to Assassin's Creed Shadows, Valhalla, Odyssey, and Origins are not stealth oriented in the slightest. The stealth is non-existent and is not good whatsoever. It is simply something that you should just not engage with. Shadows did massively improve the stealth and make it a focus, so I do very much appreciate that. And I also don't think Tsushima or Yote have some insanely in-depth stealth system, but it works perfectly for what the game needed. It isn't the main gameplay focus, but for the most part, I stealth my way through as much of the camp until I get caught, and I just find my way through the rest of the guards. There's a perfect balance of stealth and combat. And I know Assassin's Creed could find that balance. Ubisoft just chooses not to. Barring Shadows, they just sideline the stealth entirely. And in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you don't even get a character that's good at both them, as one is a stealth-oriented character and one is a combat-focused one, so you never actually get that balance. Overall though, I think the gameplay in Tsushima and Yote is just vastly better compared to the recent Assassin's Creed games. It is one of my favorite aspects of that series and what makes me love them so much. And if Ubisoft ever wants to reach higher levels again, they need to fix their gameplay and find that balance between stealth and combat. And I do think Shadows was a step in the right direction. Now, the last topic I want to discuss in this video is the narrative, and how each franchise goes about handling it. Because funnily enough, I think Tsushima and Yote both have their own aspects narratively that we can directly compare to Assassin's Creed, and see how Sucker Punch handles it better. I want to start off with Tsushima, and how they handle the character journey that Jin Sakai goes on. Because I believe his journey from samurai to the ghost is a beautiful one. One of denying his honor and his upbringing to save the people of the island. He became an outcast to the samurai even though he took out the Mongols. I think Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft have a brilliant world set up with the Assassins and Templars to where we could have similar deeper narratives and conflicts between groups and the inner workings of them and their worldviews and motives. Instead, we see these people groups be very much ignored, and even when they are more present, it gets to the point where they are just so one-dimensional. And not even just the groups, but the characters. I don't know the last time I was genuinely invested into a character from Assassin's Creed. It has been ages. There's moments here and there, but you know it's bad when I only remember Naoe and Yasuke from Shadows. And even less from Mirage, maybe 2 or 3 characters from Valhalla and Odyssey individually. I loved Origin Story, so I won't hate on that game much here, but still I don't remember that many characters from it. These narratives though are so shallow and empty. No characters really develop or change, they don't affect the world they are in much, and you really don't ever care what's going on. And it pisses me off because I know Assassin's Creed has done it before, with characters like Bayek, Edward Kenway, Ezio, Altair. These main protagonists are phenomenal. They are beautifully written, and I would have so many less issues with them moving away from the typical Assassin's Creed game if they were just written well. But they're not. And one of those main reasons is since they don't write their main characters well, and have these conflicts arise. Jin Sakai's journey is a beautiful one and a character arc that would work perfectly and fit like a glove in the Assassin's Creed world. And I just wish we got characters like that in the series nowadays. Now to jump to Yote, this will be more of a direct comparison with Shadows, as both of these titles have practically the same exact narrative premise. The main character has her family taken out and seeks revenge on the group of people that did it. Now, it's funny because I don't even think Yote has some fantastic narrative. I enjoy it and think it's handled well, but it's nothing special. And still, it is so vastly better in comparison to whatever Shadows was trying to do with their story. I was so much more invested in taking out the Yote 6 compared to the Shinbaku in Shadows. Each villain had more of a dynamic with Atsu in comparison to Naoe and her targets. The build up and missions for the targets are handled better in Yote. You meet more interesting characters along the way. Simply every aspect is handled better in Ghost of Yote. Shadows is just such a shallow experience, and it's funny because it starts off strong and you feel this motive because we lived through the death of her family. That was one thing I wish we got in Ghost of Yote, is that in the opening we play out the death of Atsu's family. And still, in the end, I felt more emotion to Atsu's journey than I did with Naoe. Both continued to explore memories of their past, but Sucker Punch was just able to have you more invested and engaged with Atsu's journey compared to Naoe. I never cared about a single assassination. I don't remember a single target's name or how I took them out. I barely remember how the game ended and had to search it up for this video. Like, this title's narrative actually has no oomph to it whatsoever. And even with Yote not being some home run in terms of a story, it is a lot more enjoyable than Assassin's Creed Shadows. And Ubisoft has not written a good narrative in who knows how long. It might be their weakest aspect as a company, and they need to do something to fix it. Overall though, these were the main points that I think Sucker Punch slams Ubisoft in, and what has created the massive divide between the companies up to this current day. Sucker Punch have been able to produce beautiful settings to explore, an engaging combat system, and great characters and narratives. I can't say that about any recent Assassin's Creed title. They have all been extremely mediocre in what they do, and they just skate on by releasing a bare bones experience. They never try to innovate or improve on things, they put out games that have no heart to them. You feel no creative direction or passion behind the titles. But Sucker Punch, you feel the joy and creativity in every inch of the experience. Every moment you see effort and care was put into it. And ultimately, that is how Sucker Punch beat Ubisoft at their own game. If you did make it to the end of today's video, thank you guys so much for watching. Your support means the absolute world to me. I had a lot of fun making this video today, so if you did enjoy it, it would mean a lot if you could like, comment, and subscribe, as we are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. Again, thank you guys so much for the support. It means the absolute world to me. I'll see you in the next video, and God bless.